with passion deep and hearts so bold. Legends live, their stories told. We honor Jim, his guiding light, forever shining through the fight. So join us here as voices cheer. The Colts are family year by year. Bleed bloody blue, the anthem calls. Together we stand through it all.
Hey everyone, it's not a good thrilling finish, good thrilling way to really talk about coming back to the Bleed Bloody Blue podcast, but let me just tell you something. This is a heartbreaking night on Monday night, Monday, December 22nd, 2025, because the Colts now have a 5% chance of going all the way to the playoffs. It's allowed three teams, including the Chargers and the 49ers and the Denver Broncos and other teams, to basically clinch a playoff spot. Or Buffalo Bills, that's what I'm thinking of. The Buffalo Bills to clinch a playoff spot now. Colts lose by the final score of 48-27. They fall to 8-7 on the year. The 49ers go to 11-4 on the year. It's a tremendous story seeing Phillip Rivers come back, score 2 touchdowns in this game. Of course, the ball was playing extremely well. They were balling really hard in the first half, but then in the second, it just exploded. And the 49ers took full and complete advantage of the entire game. And once they took control of the game, it was over. So the 49ers played maybe one of the best offenses that I have seen this season from any team besides the Kansas City Chiefs early on in week 8. And I'll get into more why I had to take a break at the end of the podcast. But, I mean, we were 7-1. And then we had the 8-2 start before the break. And then we play the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's been downhill from there. It's been downhill. I don't know what else to say. It's a total and complete collapse. It might be considered one of the worst playoff collapses that I've ever seen. The worst collapse of a team in the regular season. And there have been plenty of these examples before. Take, for instance, the 2007 Lions. It's a year before they did terrible, and a year before they went 0-16. They were bound for a playoff spot. And in reality, they did not get it because they blew the last few games of their season. There's so many examples of teams that blew playoff performances, that blew performances out of the water, that blew chance after chance after chance to go to the playoffs that could never do it. And it's even worse if you were, example, the 95 Browns, where you were literally moving out of your city and you were playoff bound, literally a 4-0 and did great. And then Art Modell comes in, moves the team to Cleveland from Cleveland to Baltimore, and you guys stink after that. So it's just terrible. I don't know what else to say. It's gonna be a short podcast too, by the way. It's just terrible that we're in this position. And at one point, I just said the Colts were literally playing like the 3-6 Penn State team that we beat back in, or 6-3 Penn State team that we beat back in November when the Indiana Hoosiers went into Beaver Stadium. But imagine that Penn State led and played the old 2024-25 Hoosier team and trailed against the Penn State Nittany Lions, which I heavily doubt would have happened that year. But I will say that it just looked terrible. It was like old Indiana Hoosiers versus the new revamped Penn State Nittany Lions or the new and revamped Michigan Wolverines. It just was terrible. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, I never felt lower on a Monday night. Bet people are going to be walking into work Tuesday all disheveled, wondering how in the world did we give up a 7-1 record at one point in the season, blow chance after chance after chance after chance after chance to just keep this lead. And they just would add the icing on the cake. Jim Irsay passed away this year. And you have to remember, it feels like all around the city of Indianapolis, just his glow, his marking kind of left. I mean, it left as soon as Tyrese Halliburton injured his Achilles. But the only team that's been doing so well, and I pray this does not happen to them, and I pray this does not happen to any other sports team in Indiana like Notre Dame if they play in a bowl game, or IU. But if the Hoosiers, with their 13-0 record, decide to walk into Pasadena, not with their heads held high, not with anything like that, but just it turns from good to worse. I mean, what is it about living in Indiana? What is it? What is it about living in Indiana sometimes? You just see this stuff and you just hope that the Hoosiers don't collapse. If they win the championship, that'll be the brightest story in the state of Indiana. That will be the brightest story. This is not a bright story. It could have been. It would have been if it wasn't for just some bad play at the end of the stretch. And you saw some of the stuff that we saw tonight. I mean, the defense itself was completely lackluster. They did not know what in the world they were doing. They let George Kittle run all over them. They let Brock Purdy outrun that team like it was Fernando Mendoza against Ohio State. I mean, it was just terrible. I don't know. In the same building where the Big Ten Championship's at, it was just terrible from the Colts. And that interception at the end to basically make the pick six, Phillip Rivers, no effort in him, no effort to make the tackle. It was over and it was done by that point. People left and couldn't deal with it anymore. And I can see why. This is just terrible. And it's a bad way to end a Monday night right before Christmas. What is it? What's next? You do wonder, what's next for this team? Do we really need to have a quarterback again? I mean, gosh, darn it. How many years do we need a quarterback? How many years do we need a freaking quarterback to play this offense every single year? I've said it for over 15 years. 15 years. The Colts need better O-line. Better center, better guards, better receivers. People to block and protect your quarterback. And for Daniel Jones, it sucks that he's out. This could have been a great game if he was still in it and we had a great record and all the 49ers were doing was fighting for a playoff spot. And now they've clinched it, and so did 3 other teams tonight. But man, this is just, I don't know. I'm just so distraught over this Colts team. We were in prime position to go all the way and do something amazing with the season. And now we have to play maybe one of the hardest schedules to end the season. With the roster that we have and with the roster that we can see, there's just 2 games left, and that's just between Jacksonville, who are red hot. They clinched a playoff spot tonight. They could win the division if they win this game. And then against us on Sunday, December 28th, which is next week. Yeah, next week after Christmas. So it's like right on the eve of New Year's. But the Texans will be the last team we play in Houston, but the Jaguars game will be the last game we play at Lucas Oil Stadium this season. I don't know, it just stings. It just stings a lot. It really does. And it really gets, it's so bad. I don't know what else to say. It's not the best way for me to kickstart the podcast again. I waited 2 months to do this podcast because of just certain stuff that was going on in the social work school, not amongst my own stuff, but then we kept losing and losing and losing and losing. And then it's not like the past where I just ignored everything and didn't want to do it. I wanted to do it. I just didn't have a lot of time to do it. And the podcast pretty much left and set sail after that for a little bit, as it sort of does throughout the week 10, week 11 time frame. for certain reasons, including finals and that stuff. But for me, it was just more I was dealing with a conflict at the social work school for my master's program, and it just became a big mess, and just everything just could go wrong, did go wrong in the campus I was at. I'm now transferring campuses, and I thought, oh, I could do this, I could do that. There will be no more Cinderella Slippers podcasts and newsletters. No more of those as well. I just wanted to leave that in the middle here before we talk about the stats and scores from tonight, which were absolutely abysmal, except for Phillip Rivers passing the ball to Alec Pierce twice tonight, which was just incredible. He had a 20-yard catch with 10 minutes and 31 seconds in the first quarter, and with 14 minutes and 15 seconds in the second quarter, he threw another 16-yard pass, but there was a touchdown and a penalty on Luter, who played for the 49ers, and the defensive pass interference, and then Group E hit the extra point. Those two things were probably the best parts of the entire game. Phillip Rivers itself, it's just a feel-good story. And I said it when I was talking to myself about the game. I said, there was a pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays who had a great movie made about him, and he was incredible. And not only was he incredible, he was pitching and coaching in baseball, even though he had gotten drafted into the MLB and didn't do much with that contract because he had to quit and move on to another career. They made a movie about it. Disney made a great movie about it. And he plays Major League Baseball close to the age of 44 or 45, around the same time Phillip Rivers is playing right now. And he, at first, was so good at baseball, even his teammates and classmates and teachers and students that he worked with said, "You're so good, you need to go back to baseball." Throws a baseball around, just keeps the baseball moving, and he's great at pitching and continues to be great, gets a minor league contract, and then plays for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in the 90s. It's a great story. It's an unbelievable story. But, I mean, it's just a great story of a guy that is old and who is really just showing that age doesn't matter. Age does not matter. It was called The Rookie, and it was the story of Jim Morris, and he was 35 years old. But Dennis Quaid was in that movie, and he was also in the movie Breaking Away as well for those that live in Bloomington. But I really loved Jim Morris's story, where he coached a bunch of baseball kids, a bunch of baseball players in high school, and became a true underdog story. And I think Jim Morris reminds us a lot of Phillip Rivers that age does not matter, skill does not matter, as long as you have a heart and a dream to continue doing what you love doing. And for Phillip Rivers to come back to the NFL, play the way he's playing, kind of reminds me too of the F1 movie where Brad Pitt's character, Sonny Hayes, gets into a kind of a life slump and then has to go back to F1 for a team that desperately needs him. But this is just a little different. He's already 0-2 to start the year off, or start his time off in Indianapolis. He tonight was 23 of 35 for 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception at the end. Brock Purdy also played great. He was a lot younger than Phillip Rivers. 25 of 34, 295 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Again, 5 touchdowns over the 2. Excuse me, that's incredible. And I just mean he played a heck of a game tonight. If you betted over 150 yards, you won a lot of money tonight if you bet on Brock Purdy to do that. And you also won a lot of money if you bet on Phillip Rivers to do that as well. He started off like his old self, but then it just went downhill from there. George Kittle tonight had 7 receptions, 115 yards, 1 touchdown. Alec Pierce had 2 touchdowns, 86 yards for 4 receptions. And Johnathan Taylor tonight ran for 16 carries, 46 yards, and 1 touchdown. There were other player stats throughout the game, but we're not so much worried about the 49ers as we were the Colts. Riley Leonard looked bad when he started. He was 0 of 1 for passing. And then there were just other guy, Alec Pierce, was the only receiver to catch 2 touchdowns tonight. Cameron Bynum had 1 interception, and then there was 1 forced fumble by Letu. And it was just amazing that how they played. And other than that, I mean, besides half our kick returners getting 89 yards for Coleman Owen, 60 yards for Tyler Goodson. Amir Abdullah had 17 yards, bless you. And Blake Grupe hit both of his both the field goals that he kicked. And I didn't want to go too much on the stats tonight because there really wasn't much to actually talk about in terms of the stats, except for Alec Pierce having 86 yards, 4 receptions. But other than that, I'm pretty devastated tonight, kind of tired. But I apologize for not speaking too much more about it. I thought I'd keep it more at the 15-minute mark. Just a horrible playoff collapse amongst many that we have seen in the NFL. And we will hopefully see you against Jacksonville. If we do not see you against Jacksonville, we will attempt to come back and do a podcast and try to talk more about the Colts. But it varies on what I am doing. But I think we'll talk about the Colts next week and talk about that. We were out for close to 4 weeks, almost a month, which is just insane. But the podcasting has also not been doing great on the long form. On the short form, it's doing fantastic. On the long form, it's just not doing very well. And our podcast really could do a lot better. But we're doing our best, guys. We're doing our best. And I feel like now I got a lot more room in my schedule. So I will make do with doing more of these podcasts. And the Colts right now with the season hanging by a thread. Literally a thread. And now it's kind of gone. 5% from 98% to 5% likely to be in the playoffs. We'll talk more about the Colts, but the direction that we plan to go on in 2026 will veer more towards racing, auto racing, maybe pickleball. But it's mainly, like, of course, we have the Indianapolis 500 podcast, the Borg Warner Productions, that's aired every single year. We hope to have big time interviews next year. But other than that, the podcasting has been very undecided. And we've been trying to market it more for the Lagodi Times, my newspaper company. But other than that, we're doing our best. And in terms of future sports, we hope to do a Hoosier podcast in the near future as well. But again, don't take my word on all this. And just remember that life does happen. And we are doing our best here. Thank you all so much. Have a good night. And Colts lose tonight. Colts lose by the final score of 48-27.